I am joined by Teagan Micah, who is number one goalkeeper at Melbourne City in the W League. Thank you for joining me, Teagan.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
How did you first get into football?
I actually played AFL growing up a lot, and then a few of the boys switched from AFL to soccer. I was probably like 9 or 10, and I just asked my mum if I could join the local team with them, and yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there.
And were you always a goalkeeper? If not, how did you end up between the sticks?
I wasn't. I mean, I played out on the field until I was about 12, so I guess that's kind of normal. But I got the growing pains in your knees, as like a lot of kids do. So I could catch and kick, obviously, from playing a lot of AFL. So they just threw me in goals, and it just kind of stuck. And yeah, I never got back out on the field after that.
Your professional debut come in the 15-16 season with Western Sydney Wanderers. What was that moment like?
I mean, honestly, that was kind of crazy for me. It feels so long ago to even think of that. Obviously, it was an honour to debut at such a young age. Can't really remember performing that well, but it is what it is. And it was a good learning experience for sure.
After that season, you went over to America to play college football with UCLA. What was the level like in comparison to the W League?
Um, For me, the level was like a perfect step up because it was like a lot of games back to back. College is a great place in terms of versing lots of different teams with different playing styles, and they're all in similar ages. So I felt like it was a good step for me instead of going straight into like professional women's where you're kind of getting, beat around at a young age. It was like that good interim and. In terms of like the quality and standard, I mean, like there's such amazing quality coming through the US college system. I guess we can see that through the players that are there and the players that have taken that pathway. So for me, it was, a step up, definitely. But some teams aren't as good as others over there, and some teams are. But I guess that's just the same as any league anyway.
America's consistently been one of the best women's national teams. Why do you think that is?
I think it has a lot to do with the US college system. Obviously, the population is significantly greater than Australia, so they have a large playing pool. But their system through the college is just unreal. They identify them as a young age, get them through a pathway, then they have goals. They're playing so many tournaments, so many games at such a young age, and then obviously you get recruited from college. So yeah, that system really helps, and they stay in the system, and yeah, they have a significantly larger player pool, which then creates competition. But yeah, I think getting the players in early into the college system, which is a professional as it can be environment with like weightlifting, strength conditioning, the coaching, everything like that. Get them in young, experience that kind of environment, and then prepare people for the draft or I mean life after college if soccer's not what you want to do.
So while you were at UCLA, you were also doing a degree. Did you find it hard to do both football and a degree simultaneously?
It was stressful sometimes. I'd say sometimes, sometimes it was quite breezy, and I'm very strict and like organized person. So I'm probably like type A personality with that. So I would never, leave an assignment to the last minute, but I don't think being an athlete you can do that because that last minute you probably have practice or you're needing to sleep before like the midnight deadline. So for me it was quite difficult balancing it sometimes, especially when you're on the road. I mean, there was one quarter where I went to like 2 weeks of school and that was it. And then we went to the World Cup and I had to do 3 exams between like round like game one and game two in France. And that was like extremely stressful. But I mean, it's just so worthwhile to do it, especially when you can combine degree and football so easily over there.
So after playing college football, you had a brief stint with Victory in the W League. Then you moved straight to Norway. How did the move to Norway come about?
Um, for me, it was just about going and finding game time. I needed game time. Obviously, wasn't getting played at Victory, so just outsource. I knew I wanted to go off overseas again. So my agents did really well. They found me a team, and it was a good first professional club for me in terms of actually getting played and being the number one keeper there. So. Um, yeah, I just knew I had to go off and get that game time, especially what was like the lead up to Tokyo then. But obviously, it's been postponed.
Did you know much about Norway before moving over there?
No, not much at all. To be fair, even had to do the Google search on where Bergen was in terms of the country and stuff. So, yeah, not a lot.
What was it like being a professional footballer overseas during the COVID outbreak? It must have been a bit, scary not knowing what was happening.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, for me, it was such an adjustment because I had gone from nearly 4 years of having such a hectic schedule at college where you're training, you do your gym, and then you're straight off to class, and you're in such a social environment all the time. So for me, the biggest adjustment was going from like always having people around me and doing something mentally, whether it's class or like hanging with friends or doing something to like literally just doing football, like sit around all day and then train. So that was like a huge adjustment for me because obviously we couldn't, go out and socialize as much as we would like to because of COVID. So most of the time we were just confined to our apartment. So for me, it was a big challenge off the field mentally.
Even though, as you said, you didn't know much about Norway before moving there, you had a very successful season there, ended up being named in the team of the season. What was it like to have such a big honour?
Um, for me, it was quite a surprise actually because obviously I finished that season quite early due to my finger breaking, but it's always a big honour and I'm stoked to have received it. But yeah, for me, uh, yeah, very happy considering it was my first professional kind of season in terms of being consistently the number one and playing.
You just mentioned you had a finger break. What happened there?
Yeah, it actually nearly shattered. It was quite bad. It just happened in training, and I guess as keepers, you just kind of go on with it. So I played the next game or two with it, and it was just extremely painful. Um, I had spoken to the doctor over there about it, and they thought it was nothing. And then, 2 weeks later, I said, "Hang on, this still isn't right." It was like limb, so it wasn't even hanging on straight, pretty much. So at that point, I was like, okay, it's not just jarred. Went and got an X-rayed, and they said, obviously took like set those scans back to the national team, and they just said, look, you got to stop, kind of thing. Otherwise, it can shatter, and then you're going to need surgery, and it's just such a longer process. And I didn't want to risk that in terms of then I would have missed a lot more W League, and that wouldn't have been good leading up to Tokyo either. So for me, it was a hard decision to stop because it's a finger. You kind of feel it's like a pointless kind of injury, but it was my right hand and everything hurt with it. So yeah, just had to stop for 6 weeks, and then that meant I had to go home.
You've now moved back home to Australia with Melbourne City in the W League. You've had a great start to the season. What is it about the setup at City that's made you flourish so much?
I love City. It's great. The club, the whole environment, they really look after us there. For me, I'm currently having such good goalkeeper training with Jordan, Frank, and obviously I'm training with Bubs as well. So, I mean, huge credit to them. They've been fantastic. George is amazing. Working with him every day. We do our due diligence, so we're watching film every day and, just trying to tick off the boxes. So I think a lot of the credit is to them.
Speaking of Barbieri, she's, one of the biggest legends in Australian women's football. What is it like working with someone of that stature?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, come full circle. I obviously used to look up to her so much. So for me, signing to City, that was a big part because I knew I'd be training under like a mentor, essentially, someone that's been there, done that. So, constantly hearing her stories and just learning things off her, and she's always supporting me. And, she can tell if I'm down or, need a little confidence boost. So she's the perfect role model for me in that sense.
And what do you think the biggest lesson you've learned from her is?
Um, Lesson, I'd probably say, she really just does the little things right. I mean, look at her. I'm not going to say her age here, but, to still be performing at such an elite level at her age is phenomenal. So, it just proves if you do the little things right and tick all the boxes, you can keep doing it.
So it hasn't all been positive news since moving back to Australia. We did see an incident earlier in the season where spectators were throwing bottles at you.
Mm.
Do you feel like players have enough protection?
Not at all. Exhibit A, that game. It's so sad because that game was such a phenomenal game for our club. The week before we'd lost 6-0 to Victory in a derby match, which is never nice. And then to turn around and win 3-2, it's massive. And it's so sad that that wasn't the headlines. And, I had a lot of my friends, even in America and ESPN, saying what happened at your game. So for that reach to get out, it's not a good look on the W League at all. And I don't think the match commissioner, the whole venue there was set up well enough to protect the players. We should never go to work and have to worry about our safety. So yeah, that wasn't good enough. And we've filed reports and stuff to FA, and it's up to them now to, if they want to make a stance and prove to the public that they do care about our safety, then it's up to them now. But from now, it's been quiet, so it is what it is.
Okay, moving on to a more positive note, you're a member of the Matildas squad for the 2019 World Cup. What was that experience like?
Yeah, that was crazy for me. Something I wasn't really expecting because I was still in college at the time. But obviously, such a surreal experience being so young in the squad, and just such an honour to be involved, and really just made me that extra bit hungry and determined to hopefully be involved in the next one.
Well, the next World Cup, Australia and New Zealand are hosting it in 2023. Just how big do you think that could be for football in this country?
Yeah, that's massive. The fact that we won that bid with New Zealand is massive. So credit to all those that helped out with that. But it's going to be so good for us as a nation, and also just to get girls involved in the sport. So it's really exciting to see, and it's really exciting to see, even the young girls coming through the W League now, like some of them have their ambitions on being in that squad. So, that's just boosting the competition between us, and it's only going to make our national team better, which is, really good.
And finally, what are your plans for 2021?
Plans for 2021, obviously finish out the W League season. Personally, I want to keep having a really good season and hopefully get some wins on the table for City. That's what we need. I think finals are out of the question, which is sad, but we can still finish off on a high note. And then obviously Tokyo, the Olympics is coming up, so that's on everyone's eye, obviously. So hopefully I can get called into camp if they're happy with me, and just try to put my best foot forward with them. And then, not too sure. Cards close to my chest on that one.
Well, thank you so much for your time tonight, Teagan. It's been a pleasure.
That's all right. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.